Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the witnesses for your attendance today. I'll largely be addressing my questions to you, Ms. McClymont. And I think I want to continue on the thread from my colleague, Mr. Cooper, where he had left off in terms of the process by which Ms. Verschaeren was ultimately appointed as chair. I know you can say hindsight's always 20/20, that reflecting on her finding of guilt under the Conflict of Interest Act ×2, you can say, well, I guess we should have taken some lessons from that and perhaps reinforced the conflict of interest provisions within the hiring sphere. But I guess what troubles me, and I'm sure troubles Canadians, is that there were red flags all over the concept of even entertaining the thought of hiring Annette Verschaeren. Much communication happening from the past president and CEO, and nothing really was done. And I know, Ms. McClymont, you're relying upon the advice and basically saying we encouraged her to obtain information and advice from the ethics commissioner, and clearly she did. But the advice that she received from the ethics commissioner, she didn't follow. Not only she did not follow, but other directors did not follow. Hence, we're in this boondoggle of $390 million of taxpayer funds inappropriately being handed out to companies that were legally not eligible, and for directors basically patting their pockets. So this is leaving a real sour taste in the minds of Canadians as to what kind of shenanigans are going on with Justin Trudeau and his government. He told her point blank, not only do you have to declare a conflict, you must recuse yourself. She didn't do that. On the basis of that, she was found guilty ×2. So, I want to go back to the process. You mentioned that there were under 10 applicants who were applying for this position. I want an actual number. And don't rely upon this is a privacy issue, because clearly it is not. I'm not asking for names. I'm asking for a finite number. How many people applied for the position of chair at SDTC?
Mr. Chair, as I've mentioned, there were close to 100 individuals who had applied for the chair position back in 2018.
You told me less than 10.
I was responding, Mr. Chair, I was responding to Mr. Cooper's question about the number on the advice letter that went forward. That was less than 10.
Well, let's go back. Over 100 applications?
Mr. Chair, I would clarify there were close to 100
Close to 100. Of that 100, you vetted that down to under 10. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. What was the number under 10?
Mr. Chair, as I've mentioned, out of respect for privacy and
That's
personal
not good enough,
information,
Mr. Chair. I'll remind you, ma'am, of the supremacy of Parliament and the supremacy of this committee. The issue of privacy does not apply. I'm not asking for names. I'm asking for individuals that were mentioned in this referral letter that went off to the PMO and the minister's office. That is not a privacy issue. And if you claim privacy again, I will seek direction from the chair, because we have a right to demand that number and the documentation that flows from that. So I'll ask you again, out of respect, what is that actual number? I will not accept under 10.
Let me just interject here, just to assist the witness. So Mr. Brock is correct about privacy. Now, we're a long way from asking for any information from that. But I do think he is within his rights to ask for a number. Now, if you need to come back to us with that number, we'll accept that. At least that would be my recommendation. But I do think you need to provide a little more specificity, because there's a lot of numbers under 10. So if you would, please.
So, Mr. Chair, I appreciate your intervention. Our standard is that we don't divulge when it's less than 10, but I appreciate your offer to assess that and come back to the committee. So we will do that. We will check with our council and see if we're able to provide the number of names that were provided in the chair advice letter.
That answer is unsatisfactory to me. She's taking this request under advisement and obtaining legal information, legal counsel as to whether she can release that number. Again, I repeat that this is not a privacy issue that can trump the supremacy of Parliament and the supremacy of this committee. I will be asking this witness again to provide that information to this committee, an actual number of individuals that made it on the referral list.
Yeah, I will function here at the direction of the committee now. It is my view that if you have that number, you should provide it to this committee. There is no, from this committee's point of view, there is no legal obligation for us to wait for a response. Out of courtesy, if you don't have that, that'd be one thing, but that's not the answer you gave. It is also unusual for PCO to appear before a parliamentary committee like this. These are unusual circumstances because of this board. I would urge you to provide Mr. Brock with that answer. It does not violate any privacy considerations that you might be under that we are not under. And again, doing so, I think, would be forthcoming to this committee, which I think you should be. It would also steer us away from the committee taking additional steps to require you to provide that information. So I would urge you to provide the number to Mr. Brock, please.
I'm not, to be completely honest, I'm not sure if I have the exact number with me. So I would like to, if Mr. Chair, if it is possible, if I could just verify and we could get back to the committee with the number, if that's okay.
Is that just for clarity? Is that something you can verify in the next hour, or are you seeking? Okay, that'd be helpful. Thank you. So we'll look for that, and we'll deal with this before noon, Mr. Brock. Mr. Brock, I'm afraid your time is now up. So